Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Russia, Bitcoin, and the Chinese dollar. This is going to be a very interesting subject, so I recommend you stay till the end and grasp the full weight of what I'm about to deliver to you. If you like these kinds of crypto videos and economic videos, you should definitely like, comment, subscribe. Check out our other stuff on the channel and our other social medias as well. But first things first, I gotta say, this is not financial advice. We don't accept liabilities for the loss that you might incur, and everything is here for educational purposes only. So we're about to move on. Russia invaded Ukraine. US and the world responded with sanctions, and now we're heading into this complicated territory where we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know where this is going to go, how this is going to affect everything, but we do know this. We know that the response and the implications of sanctions is about to be felt globally, and not just for the Russians, for everybody. And don't be surprised if this makes us head into a recession, because we're already heading there due to the pandemic and all these other factors. Now, I think this is going to accelerate it. People basically boycotted Russian oil, and now they're like, we're not going to allow them to use the US dollar, and we're going to collapse the ruble and all these other things. And this is where it's going to become complicated, because the ruble is collapsing. It hurts. It's not doing so well. You can't even use it on a global scale anymore, which is cornering Russia, but actually all it really did was strengthen what they're able to do now. So right now, minus the crashing, they're considering even, using crypto on a bank level. So they've been talking about issuing crypto. Hold on, let me pull that up actually. I'm going to leave it in the source description for you guys, but the reality is that they were talking about banks issuing crypto, considering how low the ruble was. And that right there opens the door for, even if the Russian economy does collapse in a ruble/dollar perspective, if they go into crypto, that's immutable. That's censorship resistance. And that's what makes this whole thing complicated. And then this is going to lead to the next thing, right? The Great Reset. It's been talked about a lot by the WEF and all these other people, but I think we should actually look at it a little bit differently, not just from a reset perspective. But if you guys ever heard of Bretton Woods is basically the response after World War II for a changing world order and how things would be after World War II. And the Great Reset, we should look at it in terms of Bretton Woods 3. So, World War I happened. That was like one change of world order. World War II happened. That was the next shift. Then the gold standard, going off the gold standard, was technically Bretton Woods 2, which is getting the US off the gold standard onto an oil standard. And now this is Bretton Woods 3, which is the beginning of a shift from the American dollar, in my opinion. So Russia will probably be one of the first countries to default on its debt. There's a reason they've been paying down their debt, accumulating gold, accumulating crypto, and then, just acquiring assets, right? So they're setting themselves in a position where they're not necessarily going to need the US dollar and the US debt system anymore. And once Russia does that, technically speaking, on a short-term perspective, even if the ruble crumbles, it doesn't really matter anymore, because they're the first to reset, meaning that they're the first to basically set their economy up for a default. And defaults are coming. No one's going to pay their debt. There's no such thing as respecting the debt anymore, especially when the US just printed 15 to 16 trillion dollars, which is 80% of its money supply or something like that, or 60% of its money supply in one shot. No one's respecting their debt, because the US can't respect the dollar. And the thing that's going to make this complicated is that if this does actually happen, which is where I think we've already headed to, oil will be worth more than the dollar. That's why the barrel went up. It's because now there's less Russian oil on the market, which means that the barrel has to go up accordingly. And that's going to kind of hurt the US more than it's going to hurt Russia, because Russia never really had a strong dollar. But US putting a sanction actually kind of put the US in the beginning of a dollar crisis. And you'd be like, how does that work, Matthew? Well, I'm about to explain it. And it's very important that you heed these words, not from a perspective of emotion. Just understand what this implications of these sanctions are going to be globally. You have places like Saudi, Russia, India, and China, who are all near each other, and they're large production zones. They've decided that they're all going to explore using the yen, the Chinese yen, for oil trades. That's huge. the first shift away from the dollar to say, hey, we don't want to have to deal with all your sanctions. Because that's what it is. They're like, oh, the US just keeps sanctioning whoever they want because they're the global reserve currency. And the reality is you're having a place like Russia or India or China, all these places that are considered like corrupt and all these other issues, they don't want to play ball anymore. And the thing is what, you're going to force them to play ball? No, you can't. You can't force China to play ball. And the thing is the more you try to force them, the more places like Saudi and all these other like places that are deemed immoral are going to go to an immoral dollar like the yen. And how much more moral is the US dollar considering how many, bombs and wars it started over oil, right? So we're seeing the beginning of a shift here. And the scary part of this shift is that when Saudi and all these countries decide to switch to the Chinese dollar over the US dollar, that right there is going to put the US dollar in a position where not only is it going to get weaker, but the Chinese yen is going to get stronger. And over the course of the last few years, we've seen the Chinese dollar being suppressed to be weaker and the US dollar being pushed to become stronger, inflated to become stronger. So what's going to happen when the US dollar can't commit to staying strong on a global scale anymore? Because that's going to come shortly. It's very soon. And then the Chinese yen stops being suppressed downwards. We're going to see this happen. We're going to see the dollar go down another probably 10 to 20% of its value, and then the Chinese yen go up 10 to 20 or 30% of its value because of the production behind it. And then once you see that shift, it's going to be very difficult for the US to turn back the damage it's doing. And what people don't understand is that the US may lead the world's economies right now, but once they lose their reserve currency status and they're no longer considered where you would stack your money into to be safe, when their corruption and the issues of the country are becoming a global political drama, people don't feel safe investing in bonds and dollars of the American system. They don't want to hold the debt anymore. And if everyone dumps the debt at the same time, the US dollar will go into a free fall. And that is basically where I think it's going to go. And that's kind of why I wanted to mention this. And this video is going to be very important just to hear this perspective as to why these sanctions are actually going to be detrimental to the US. They weren't thought out properly. It wasn't a good idea to do that, because as tragic of what's happening in Ukraine, the US getting involved is about to destroy their hegemony. And the Russian economy now is even considering accepting, Bitcoin for oil and gas. Meaning that Bitcoin and the Chinese yen together are going to destabilize the US dollar pretty much permanently if they aren't able to get this under control soon. And judging by the looks of it, I don't think that's going to happen. So is crypto the great reset? Probably. Is it more risky to hold dollars or crypto and assets right now? That's the real question. Personally, you know where my stance is. Crypto and assets will go farther than the dollar will. And at the way we're going, don't be surprised if you see the US dollar collapse within, let's say, a 3 to 8 year span. I said it in 2020. The US dollar's got 5 to 10 years, 3 depending on the next president. Before we actually see it. I'm not saying full collapse. I'm saying within 3, we're going to see the beginning of the end. By 2030, it's finished. And if not 2030, 2031, 2032. The US dollar will print itself out of existence. Because one thing people forget is fiat currencies inevitably go to zero. There's nothing backing it, kind of fucked. I guess we'll end on that note, because that's a lot to take in. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely check out all our other social medias. Like, comment, subscribe if you watch this till the end. And check us out on Fiverr if you want personalized research done for you. Take care. And one last thing, guys, you should definitely check out Ray Dalio's Changing World Order. You could read the book or listen to the audio version on YouTube. I'm going to leave it in the description, but you guys should definitely check it out if you want to know more about this situation. Take care.